Welcome into another week of Monday Morning Center Back. A little different setup this week. I'm trying to see if I get maybe Greg to superimpose a Union logo on that television back there as we get rolling for you on this Monday. Another good two games for you. We are not talking to you after a loss, picking up 2 points over the week, one at home against Inter Miami, one down the road against Austin. Plenty to get into on both the play and some viral scuffles we'll talk about coming up on the show. But first, I'm Ray Dunne alongside Sheanon Williams. Sheanon, how you doing today?
Good. Another Monday that we are still undefeated since the podcast started. So things are still rolling, even though a little bit slower than when we opened up the gates, but still a good road point.
Yeah, you last week you took the lead in saying, "Hey, it's going to be playoffs. This team going to playoffs," and you wanted to see how the team responded to that because we all know when you put something out there in the air, it's not so much maybe they're listening to us as if just maybe there'd be a jinx. We used the word jinx last week. You didn't get that. 5 points out the last time we spoke. 3 points out now following the two draws last week. I imagine you're still feeling that way because I'll be honest with you, I had to take my temperature this morning because the playoff fever has just hit an even higher pitch for me.
Yeah, and I think the games that they have coming up also leads into that, especially if they can start to pull even more points from these games. They're going to play New York again, who's right above them in that playoff hunt and definitely can put some pressure on them. And they're going to play Montreal as well, who's at the bottom of the table. So those are two winnable games, I think, for this group. And that's why I was so confident last week about them making the playoffs. I think that they have a lot of games to make up in this East Coast stretch, but I think again they're hitting their form at the right time.
Yeah, we'll get to preview in New York and a rematch of the first game we were able to break down here. So it's a full circle moment for us. Only what 5 episodes into this podcast, but hey, they keep rolling while we are breaking them down, and it's been a fun thing to see. And that Miami game, I felt like it was a 2 week preview for us for that Miami game. We knew it was there. We wanted to keep talking about it. How could you not talk about it? For Inter Miami right now, the form they're playing is difficult coming out of the World Cup break. If you want to see pretty much the exact opposite of what the Union have been able to do coming out of break. Go look at what Miami's done. Another tough one on Saturday night for them up in Toronto or against Toronto. But you're able to get the draw and quick start. And the energy was there. Vasilev finds the back of the net, and you're starting to think, okay, what are you going to be able to do against this team? And then you did see Messi be Messi there for a good 15, 20-minute stretch where it's like, yeah, all right, remember why this guy is who he is, and then you're able to respond from that.
Yeah, I think that they came out punching, and I thought that they did a great job to press Miami higher up the field. They did a great job in the counter press, which led to some turnovers and also some opportunities for them. So they have again just tied back into that identity of them being a high tempo team. The place was buzzing, the place was packed. Obviously, they get their goal first, and the place is now really rocking. And then Miami responds with the two goals, and that's a little bit of the naive play that I think still lingers in this team at times, especially with some of the younger guys that just haven't been out there for the game time. They then come back, respond. I think in the beginning of the season, they probably lose that game and probably go down by more goals. So it was a great response from the group. They even then go up a goal, only to have it called back. So again, I thought that they really took it to Miami, and again, Miami's in second place, and they are a very good team. So that's a good barometer for this group to kind of test yourself and where you're at after this World Cup stretch and that four game winning streak that they were on. They had a good performance on the home turf. We'll say I think that they would have wanted that win. Then obviously the viral moments that you're talking about happen with Kevin and Messi and Quinn and the whole game kind of takes up its own story from there. But again, I thought from the on the field stuff, I thought they were very good. I thought they were a little bit unlucky at times, but I definitely thought that they had the lion's share of the opportunities, and that's not easy, especially when you're playing against Messi.
Yeah, I mean, before we even get to the whole dust up at the end of the game, I mean, the opportunities were there. You kind of felt, and I was sitting there at least in that, last 10 minutes and going to stoppage time. I was like, it's coming. I was like, they're gonna get one here at the death of the game. Like it just felt like here's one more opportunity for this team. They're going to find a way to find that goal and get all three out of this one. It didn't end up materializing like that, but Miami's Miami. And I don't care what form they're in. If you end up playing them that well and you end up walking out there again, just with a point, but with a point nonetheless, and feeling like you were the better team there, I walked out there like, yeah, there was probably a little bit more on the table for you, but how could you not be thrilled with the way that you were able to compete against them?
Yeah, I think that again, like there was large stretches of the game that they actually dominated and really took Inter Miami to the woodshed, and I thought really had a good showing against a team that's at the top of the Eastern Conference. So again, that has to give me some hope that even if they can squeak into the playoffs, right, that they can actually take on some of these guys once they get there. I think that they are built for that. And again, it wasn't an Inter Miami team that was heavily rotated, right? This is a full lineup that they had out there, and these are the guys that you want to test yourself against. I thought there was a ton of good performances in the game. Cavan was special again. Neil Pierre gets another goal. It's getting kind of crazy that he's just racking up the goals the way he is. There was a lot. Indy Vassilev gets a goal early on in the game. There was a lot of good performances in that game from different guys. And again, that's what you're going to need in this second half of the season is different guys stepping up at different times.
We're gonna do the obligatory Kevin Sullivan, Neil Pierre questions coming up. Don't worry. What a week for the two of them breaking it down. But let's go to the Sullivan brothers because that becomes the moment out of this where it's not even soccer fans. It's just people in your life like, oh, you see what happened? Like you were watching? Like yeah, I saw what happened. I was
I think I heard somebody yell out "World Star."
yeah. But I mean, you were like, all right, yeah, I didn't realize WWE came back around to Philadelphia here for a moment. But I thought the biggest thing, we talked about it last week about just like the bond of brothers and how cool it is to be playing at this level. We talked about it when we were talking about the both of them having an assist in the same game. Like, all right, like you're going to come after Quinn. Guess what? Like I might be 16, but I'm gonna fight like a man here. Like I'm coming up and I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna be in your face. And credit to Cavan because in the whole situation, he comes out as the mature guy that ends up back in the locker room and, what ended up happening during running up that tunnel. I thought, that's kind of the response you look for. Red card gets rescinded, but they were able to respond to, a Miami team that looked like they were trying to send a message to them late in that one as that was getting to the end.
Absolutely. That's a Miami team that's been in a ton of big games and has a ton of big game experience and is really just understanding that it might not be their day. How can they frustrate you? How can they get you off your game to give themselves an advantage? So you've seen, I'm sure, how it started with Quinn and Messi and the little dust up that they had. It then continues on as the game goes on. We have the WWE style suplex, which I got to give Quinn a lot of credit for. That is a great form tackle. Um,
Mhm.
so, so the Eagles, if you're looking for maybe a little cornerback, Quinn Sullivan could be available for you. But then obviously you have Cavan that comes in and protects not only his brother but also his teammate, and it's great to see this group not back down from anybody. I think that's something that's really been revamped in this rebirth after the World Cup, and I think that they're a team that's not going to back down from anybody, and that has really helped them go toe to toe with some of these bigger teams in the league. And Miami is a great example of that. And again, we talk about a 16-year-old being the mature one in that situation, gets punched twice. Now, granted, like he probably hasn't been punched that many times in his life, so the stun, I think maybe took over. But again, I think a lot of people maybe throw a hand back in that moment and take the red card and aren't available for the next game. And you know, obviously he goes on to score in that next game, and it's a big deal, right? And getting that red card rescinded. They always joke about like anytime he does anything, they put out the youngest guy to get a red card, Cavan Sullivan,
Yep.
youngest guy to get a red card rescinded, Cavan Sullivan. So I like that they're rolling with him. And again, like instead of making it a negative thing, I thought Ryan did a great job in just making it a positive thing, letting his guys know that nobody's going to back down from anybody here. We're going to have each other's back, and we're going to make a run at this.
Yeah, and two, I think what Ryan said post game about, you're gonna step over someone. That's a disrespectful move. Like you have to be ready for what comes.
In Philadelphia, that's crazy to do. Like you know what
Yeah,
you're doing.
you know what it means. Like
You
we're
know
not
what you're
dumb
doing.
here.
And not
Like
only stepped on him, but also like raked part of his leg down. Like I thought that was absurd. I thought the whole moment itself was ridiculous
mhm.
and it was rightfully responded to.
Yeah, take care of business. You're gonna step over my brother. My brother's gonna tackle you, and now I'm gonna come after you as well. You know?
Yeah. And that had been brewing for a while, right? So again, like that's where the referee has to step in and control those moments. And then obviously, I think he makes a quick decision with the whole Cavan thing and giving him a red card. Um, maybe he was after a little bit of the history there. Maybe Cav signed that red card for him afterwards.
We've talked about it. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. It's the memorabilia that surrounds Kevin Sullivan. It could be it, but regardless, I mean, I thought the fight that was shown there, and using the word literally there a little bit in terms of what they're able to go back and forth with Miami there at the end, was kind of symbolic of maybe the confidence they're playing with right now and the confidence they have. And you mentioned it that they're not backing down to anyone. And Kevin being kind of the banner child for this confidence that they're in post World Cup break. I mean, he just looks like the best player out there time and time and time again. You take that into Austin, and the way that game gets started, Sullivan scores. It's like, well, thank God there was no red card. And also, what a beautiful, beautiful play to set him up. I understand the headline is Kevin Sullivan scores a goal, but goodness. I mean, how beautiful it was to see that first goal go in against Austin. He performed tremendous, but just watching that play, that it was like in that moment, yeah, this is a team that's figured out what they want to do and how to create the chances they want.
Yeah, and the set pieces since Kai has come back have really resurged and really been a huge help in this second part of the season since Ryan has taken over. They have been dominant on set pieces. Now, obviously, adding the 6'7" Neil Pierre and him having an opportunity per game definitely helps. But again, that consistent service from Kai, I think, is really important to the group. I think you look at that first part of the season, they struggled mightily on set pieces, and they're back to making that a weapon that they can use. And that's a huge weapon, not only to use at home when you need a goal, but also on the road. I think those are ways that you can stay in games and you can steal games from teams when you have that set piece threat. Cavan obviously is a big focal point. It's getting hard to ignore him from a U.S. men's national team standpoint. He's not just like a 16-year-old out there. He's a 16-year-old that's producing. He's a 16-year-old player that's looking at times like the best player on the field. Skin Casemiro the other day, right? So like he is not only being out there, he's being asked to solve problems for the group, and he's doing a great job. I think the same for Neil Pierre. He was incredible in that Austin game, had several key blocks and takeaways that I thought were really important as that game started to get really stretched and opened up. We have two players that I think are knocking on the door and knocking pretty loudly.
Yeah, let's dive into that because that's the immediate takeaway, I think, for a lot of people from a national perspective or from more, if they want to just look at this through the prism of like, what does this mean for the U.S. men's national team going forward when they watch Kevin Sullivan? I think locally, it's like, look how awesome he's playing for the Union. You'd love to see it happen. But from your perspective, like, why doesn't that call get made? Because to me, it seems like a slam dunk call to make at this point. And I feel like the case is being made by so many people right now for it to happen. Where are you at in terms of believing it's going to happen and why would or wouldn't it happen?
Yeah, it's definitely going to happen. I think in this calendar year, I think it'll happen before January at some point. I just think that again, you want them to get involved with that U.S. men's national team as quickly as possible. On the flip side of it, you want them to be set up for success. Obviously, as
Mm.
soon as that happens, right now, really the media spotlight's on, and it's going to really ramp up and start. You're seeing people now kind of chime in and see glimpses, and you're seeing them start to kind of start the talking process, the media storm that is coming for Kevin, especially once he puts on that U.S. men's national team jersey. I'm sure it'll be a hot sellout for that jersey. It'll be hard to get for some U.S. men's national team fans. But again, like you want to make sure that once he does join those ranks, that he's ready for that moment, that opportunity, and that he hits the ground running. You definitely don't want him to come in and it be too much for him. He's still only 16 years old. I think that gets ignored when you see him play, and he looks like a grown man as he grabs somebody's jersey and wants to scuffle up with him. So it's going to come for him. I think that everybody is looking out for Kevin and doing what's in his best interest. I'm sure that they've had discussions already. To not even make that phone call would be crazy. So I'm sure that they've had some conversations, and they'll do it at the right time that makes sense for the player and the team.
I mean, you said it was gonna be tough to get that jersey. Listen, we've been doing this podcast now for 5 episodes. We've hung out the rump. I feel like of all people that might have a connection for that one, Shane, are you gonna be able to hook me up? I'm not asking you to, free jersey. Just hook me up with the link. I feel like there's
Okay,
there's an
I got you
insider
on
link.
that. I could definitely post a link. That's for sure.
I need the Sheanon Williams. Hey, I know a guy link. I need again. I don't need a discount. I don't need
Okay.
full price. I just need to know where to get it.
All right, that's fair. That's how I feel about things, especially like tickets and stuff. Like I just want to buy it at cost. That's
Yeah,
all. Just
I
don't
don't need it
outsell me
free.
on stuff, right? Like I'm with you. Just give it to me for the price that it costs, and let's move on from there.
Yeah, again, just what it costs. Just get me to the right place, get me in front of the right people. I don't need
Okay,
any.
what size are we thinking?
I'll probably go large,
Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Pull
a
those
lanky
shoulders
dude.
back. Make sure it fills out
Yeah.
right.
I'm a lanky dude, so I ended up being
Okay.
large. I know people look at the physique and large isn't the first thing that sticks out to them, but I'm a lanky guy. I'm almost 6 foot. So,
Yeah, that's fair. All right, I'll keep an eye out. Maybe one
yeah.
will fall off the back of a truck.
All right. I appreciate it. I want to quickly, before we get into Neil Pierre's play on Saturday night, Kevin, something kind of fits into this question that I know you were tapped in when I was on PHL 17. Our good friends over there at PHL 17 on Friday, but they asked the question of, what's changed? And I think we've got enough data points now that there's a lot of different, roads you could go down on what's changed for this team and what's been most impressive. But as we start to rank out, and it's very sports talk radio of me to just give credit one place and maybe not look at the whole picture here. But if you're looking at what's been different for you since the World Cup break and the biggest thing that's changed that's allowed this run of success for the Union, what is that?
I think Ryan's done a good job to kind of let his players play with some freedom. I think that's given them confidence, and when you play with confidence, it literally feels like you can't be stopped. You hear in the NBA people talking about playing in that flow state. When you have confidence on the field, it feels like anything that you try will come off, and that's when you see the ridiculous stuff in the NBA. Right? That's when you see Kevin Sullivan skinning guys like he's just walking past cones. When you have that confidence and that belief that you are a player that belongs, and not only belongs, that can dominate this league, and the Union have some of those players, I think that shows the world of confidence when you feel like you have the backing of the manager, and that you make a mistake, that he'll still stick with you. That is a huge show of faith that the manager has in you, and belief, and that can definitely go a long way. I think you see it with Pierre, you see it with a lot of the young guys, that belief that they have, that they can go out, play their game, play how they want to play, it still be successful in what the team wants to do, and understand that they're going to make mistakes along the way. They're not going to win every game from the World Cup break until the end of the year, right? We said that already, and maybe we're going to be wrong about that, but again, I think that confidence, that belief that he instills in his players, I think has gone a long way. And he's also kind of given it back to the group to kind of let them decide what they want to be. I think they have enough guys in that locker room that understand what the club is, and what they need to produce week in, week out to be successful, and for the fans and the club to be happy with them.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the play with freedom, and that was kind of, I think, the overall confidence. If we keep talking about, oh, this player's more confident, that player's more confident, this player's, found it for them. It just seems like it all comes back to the leadership of Ryan Richter right now, where this team's at under him. I mean, and these younger players playing so well, Neil Pierre being one of them, which we started the fan club after the first show. I mean, at this point, we're right now just overrun with people trying to get into the fan club for Neil Pierre, especially after Saturday night, because you're listening to that broadcast and it's justified in the way that he played. But listen to that Apple TV broadcast, they couldn't get enough of talking about Neil Pierre. And it's not the novelty of a 6'7" guy that's just running up and down the field. It's just genuinely how well he played. What you've seen in him, what you saw on Saturday night, the continued growth. Yes, there are moments where you remember how young he is watching him play, but overall, I mean, he's a game changer. You think about the ball that slips past Andre Blake, he's able to clear that one out just at the right place. He's figured out how to make his impact not only scoring, but obviously on that back line. What have you loved about him? What'd you love about the last week for him?
That he's a long-legged spider, and that is it's impossible to get the ball past him. There were multiple times where Christian Ramirez almost had a goal that he ended up blocking. There was a couple that they were on the break that he just kind of stuck his leg out, and then all of a sudden they're transitioning the other way. Like, those legs are impossible to get around, and even when you do, you know the tackle's coming. You know that those legs are going to catch back up to you. So he is definitely putting fear in opponents. He's clearing everything in the air. He's putting in really dominant performances. And I love that you brought up those Apple TV guys because they're seeing it for the first time live. And the wow factor is there, right? And that's how you know you have something special. When you have obviously heard about a guy, this isn't the first tall center back that the MLS has had, but it's the best tall center back the MLS has had, right? And again, it's not only from he's affecting the game not only on the defensive side of the ball, but also in the offensive side of the ball, which we haven't seen many center backs score at this clip. It's the scoring rate is that of a forward. A lot of our forwards haven't scored as many goals as Neil Pierre, right? And triple the games, and that's no diss on the forward group, but again, that just shows you how dominant he's been since coming in and since coming back from on loan.
Yeah, you mentioned the scoring clip. I mean, we go back to Miami game and um, putting one in the back of the net, but just overall, like you're now so much of, and I think it might open up something forward wise. Like it has to be in the thought process going forward for these teams of like, all right, set piece. Obviously you're looking up and you're like, yeah, I probably should mark that guy. But just the attention that he's going to draw now, you would imagine opens things up and lets things breathe for other guys because it's not just, hey, that guy's tall, we should probably mark him. It's like, no, this guy's tall and he's able to capitalize on the chances that he gets.
Yeah, and nobody wants to mark that guy. I'm being so honest with you. Nobody wants to mark that guy. You know the ball is going there. It's like being set up in like an ISO play, right? Like, and you're gonna get done. And he's getting so good at just hunting the ball. It's
Mhm.
not always, it's gotta be here. He's just really just wanting to score goals and knowing that he has a huge advantage on people. And again, that size and that after you've been dealing with the rest of the game for 60 minutes, 70 minutes, 80 plus minutes, and now you got to deal with Neil Pierre coming and trying to score on a set piece. Like, it is not an enjoyable process, and I promise you that. And you will see teams start to double, and like you said, it'll open other things up. I think Nate Harrell is due a goal, especially I know he got one in Leagues Cup, but again, on set pieces, he's still dangerous. They have other guys that can be dangerous on set pieces. It's just added a whole new dimension, just bringing that set piece weapon back. They still have the long throw that they can use. So again, they are finding ways to score goals. I think they still have to tighten things up a little bit in the back and try to pitch some shutouts down the stretch here. But again, I think that'll come.
And where do you think that comes from? What do you think is the biggest thing for you right now in terms of tightening up in the back? You mentioned that. What do you think it's going to take maybe to lead to some of those clean sheets?
Just time. I think this back line is still new and still hasn't put together that many games. I think over time you start to learn tendencies. You start to learn how to cover each other a little bit better and how to put out those fires. And I think they're doing that. I still think that they can get better at that. Obviously Nate has done a really good job at center back, and I think that partnership will continue. But it just takes time, just like anything else. It's like a starting five in basketball, right? The more games they play, the better they look. And I think that Ryan will continue to work with that defense. I think if they want to make the playoffs, that defense has to be a big part of the reason why.
Yeah, and we're talking playoffs. You and I at this point, we are launched into the fact that this team, we're going to be making plans in the fall. We're going to be like, hey, listen, this isn't just a regular season podcast. All right, this is a postseason
Well,
podcast.
playoff edition, I like it.
We're going to be talking about now New York and the matchup coming up because you get a little bit of a breather. Maybe that's a really good thing for this team right now in terms of just the midweek, just getting a little bit of time to catch your breath between Leagues Cup. It just feels like you've been going at this point for the last couple of weeks. We've been talking about multiple games a week. Now to get yourself a little bit of time, go up to New York on Saturday. For you, Shane, and what are you seeing in the matchup? It's a team obviously you just saw about a month ago. We were able to see, kind of that energy that kind of broke the dam, for lack of a better phrasing, for this team that allowed that energy and that jolt for this real run post break to start. What are you seeing in New York right now? What do you think about that matchup coming up on Saturday night?
I think it's a huge game, especially with where the two teams stand in the standings. And we always consider these as 6 point swings because you take 3 points, right, from the other team and you also gain 3 points. So this is a huge matchup. I think there's a lot of pressure on Red Bull to make sure that they keep the Union down in the cellar. And I think that obviously it's not easy to beat a team twice, especially in a short span. They'll definitely be up for the game. But I think that the Union, again, in their form, can really take over the way that they're pressing and counter pressing when it's not, 100 degrees and a ton of humidity. I think has been a huge focal point for me in terms of their resurgence and the reason that they're making a push for this playoff run. They've upped the tempo and they are playing with a lot of urgency, like a team that is desperate. And I think that that's important to continue for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you look at New York and what kind of run they've been on here. Just one win since the World Cup break. If you want to talk about two teams where the stories are just totally different right now and the way that they've been playing, the pressure's there because the Union right now are kind of like the Jaws music, Da-na, you just kind of feel like it's coming. And like if you can't, get moving, you can't start the engine and get that boat on out of there, the shark's coming for you. And it feels like the Union right now, if you're New York, like you're aware if you can't take care of business Saturday night, maybe it's not in peril for you making the postseason, but you start to feel a little bit like that. You certainly open up the door wide open for the Union to start making that run.
You start to feel like somebody's breathing on your neck, and that's the
Mhm.
Union, that's for sure. And I again, like this is going to be a massive matchup. I think both teams will be up for the game. These rivalry games are always huge, and you kind of just throw out the records at that point, the form at that point, and you just kind of pick the boots up and go to battle. And I know that both teams will really be wanting to take over this game and really want to play it on their terms. I think the Union have been doing a really good job of that. I think that for me, I'd be hard pressed to see them drop points here, and I think that they have to again play with that urgency and understand that 3 points are needed from here till the end of the season. The end of the season, I'm looking at the calendar, is coming up quick.
Yep.
Once the fall happens, once September and the kids are back at school, there's only usually probably like around 8 games left at that point. So they definitely have to make sure that they continue to play with that urgency and understand the situation that they're in, and that's a good balance of playing with that freedom that you've seen them play with over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean it's coming up. I can tell. Last week when we talked to you, you were down the shore, and I made it down the shore this past weekend, and you're sitting there, and I was like, yeah, well. There's not many weekends left for me to be down here, and if that's the case, that means the season's coming to a close pretty quickly. And I think for our perspective of where we started, 5 weeks ago, talking about this, it was like, all right, let's see what they have coming out of the World Cup break. Now you've kind of put your foot to the pedal so much, it's like at this point, slowing down doesn't make much sense. Like you're
It
gonna,
almost feels like a brand new season.
it
Like
really does.
The Union got new jerseys. All of a sudden, like you completely forget about that first part of the season and actually have to like kind of like reference back to it, and almost treat it like its own season. So I again hope that they can continue this run of form. I think that there will be definitely this dip at some point, But hopefully those dips are when you only get 1 point instead of three. So again, any points, especially road points that are hard to come by, are important and going to be really important the rest of the way.
You mentioned the New Jersey, the new look. Speaking of the Shane and Link and the Shane and hookup, maybe that's where we'll start. Before we get to the
Okay.
Kevin Sullivan U.S. men's national team jersey, we'll
I'll
start
try.
with,
Listen, we got to try to get like the one from the Inter Miami game, right? Like
yeah.
if you're going to use connections, you got to make sure that you exhaust it and you empty the tank.
But I think your connection's a little bit stronger than mine, so I'll let you start. I'll be the one that follows you in that path.
All right, and we'll both get our hands caught in the cookie jar.
Yeah, there you go. Shaden, always a pleasure. Always good catching up. We got another episode coming next week. It's gonna be again, I mentioned it, a week to breathe a little bit here. We'll be so locked in on one result a week from now. Make it a win.
A week of preparation for the Red Bull. I think that that's the best way to go about it. I think that they'll be locked in and ready to go for this game. So I'm expecting a good performance, and I'm expecting it to be loud.
I love it. I'm expecting it as well. I think that's one thing you could expect those two sides, especially with what this one's going to mean. I'm looking forward to it on Saturday night. Shannon, we'll talk again next Monday. Catch up about. Well, I hope we talk before then, off the air. But we'll talk to
We'll
everybody.
talk before then for sure. But next Monday, we know we have a set time, place to meet up for sure.
Yeah, set time, place right here. You can see. Beautiful. I'm gonna actually the framing right here. That is the framing of Magic Johnson's tweet after the Eagles beat the Commanders. I'm going to get a second tweet framed out of
Okay.
the LeBron James signing with the Sixers. That is not yet been framed. Maybe I'll have that in the background by next week. I was
Okay.
originally going to get the Jaylen Brown tweet framed, but I figured, I'll go with LeBron instead if it's going to be the background of a podcast.
Listen, you're definitely gonna want LeBron instead.
Uh, Hey, when you mentioned flow state earlier, I was going to mention how about having 30 in the finals against the Mavs, but I wasn't going to do that to you. Not on this show. Until next week, I'm trying to make sure you don't miss me too much over the next 7 days. We'll talk to you again Monday morning, center back, right here on the Philadelphia Union YouTube channel. For Shannon Williams, I'm Ray Dunn. Let's go get 3 points there against New York and talk about it next week with you. We'll talk to you soon.